In today's world, relationships can often feel like a battleground of emotions, where some individuals use subtle tactics to control and manipulate others. One of the most common methods of manipulation is through emotional traps, where a person might manipulate another's feelings to achieve their own desires. Women, like anyone else, can sometimes use these emotional tactics to create an imbalance in relationships, gaining control by playing on vulnerability, guilt, or desire. But how do we, as individuals seeking emotional balance and strength, avoid falling into these traps? This is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism offers invaluable guidance. Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches resilience, emotional control, and wisdom, provides us with the tools to not only recognize emotional manipulation, but also to remain unaffected by it. By understanding how emotions work, the Stoic approach empowers us to maintain composure and make rational decisions rather than being swayed by external influences. It teaches us that the key to a fulfilling and balanced life is not allowing others' actions to disturb our inner peace. In this video, we'll dive deep into how cunning individuals, regardless of gender, use emotional traps, and how Stoicism can help us navigate these challenges. We'll explore the psychological tactics used to manipulate emotions, the importance of emotional detachment, and how cultivating inner strength and wisdom can help you rise above emotional manipulation. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to identify emotional traps and, more importantly, how to respond with the calm, rational power that Stoicism offers. Number 1. The nature of manipulation. Understanding emotional traps. Manipulation is a subtle yet powerful tool that can be used to influence others for personal gain, often at the expense of the manipulated individual. While manipulation can take many forms, one of the most insidious methods is through emotional traps. These are tactics that aim to provoke specific emotional reactions from the victim, often with the goal of controlling their behavior or decisions. Emotional manipulation thrives on the exploitation of human emotions such as guilt, fear, love, and insecurity. It's a method of control that operates beneath the surface, making it difficult to recognize, especially when emotions cloud our judgment. In relationships, whether personal, professional, or romantic, emotional manipulation is a pervasive issue. The manipulator often seeks to induce feelings of dependency, confusion, and self-doubt in the victim, effectively rendering them more vulnerable to future emotional exploitation. Understanding emotional traps requires recognizing the various ways in which they manifest. One common emotional trap is the guilt trip, where the manipulator induces guilt in the victim to achieve a desired outcome. For example, they might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." The guilt created in such a situation can make the victim feel obligated to act in a way that benefits the manipulator, even if it goes against their own needs or desires. Another form of emotional manipulation is the playing of the victim. This tactic involves the manipulator presenting themselves as the one who is always suffering, often to gain sympathy and to make the victim feel responsible for their emotions. For instance, a manipulator may say, "You don't care about me," or "You would understand how hard things are for me right now." This emotional blackmail places the victim in a position where they feel obligated to help or prioritize the manipulator's emotional needs, often to the detriment of their own well-being. One of the most dangerous aspects of emotional manipulation is how it targets our vulnerabilities. Humans are emotional creatures, and our responses to emotions often shape our decisions and actions. Emotional manipulators know this, and they expertly play on these emotional triggers to get what they want. For example, they might target insecurities in the victim, playing on their fear of abandonment or rejection. This tactic can be particularly effective in romantic relationships, where one partner may use emotional manipulation to create a sense of dependency. By making the victim feel afraid of losing their love or approval, the manipulator can gain power over them, dictating their actions and decisions. The victim, often unaware of the manipulation, may feel compelled to please or sacrifice their own needs in order to avoid the perceived emotional consequences. Another tactic used in emotional manipulation is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where the manipulator causes the victim to question their perception of reality, often making them feel confused or insecure about their own thoughts and actions. A manipulator might say things like, "You're overreacting, that never happened," even when the victim knows otherwise. Over time, this tactic can erode the victim's self-confidence and trust in their own judgment, making them more reliant on the manipulator for validation. This can create a toxic dynamic where the victim becomes more and more controlled by the manipulator's version of events. The nature of emotional manipulation is not always malicious. Sometimes it can be a learned behavior that is used unconsciously. However, that does not make it any less harmful. Manipulators may use these tactics to maintain control over a relationship or to avoid taking responsibility for their own actions. Often, they believe that their behavior is justified, rationalizing their actions as a way to protect themselves or to gain something they believe they deserve. This creates a dynamic where the victim feels responsible for the manipulator's emotional state, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid triggering negative reactions. Emotional manipulation can have long-lasting effects on the victim, leading to feelings of confusion, low self-worth, and emotional exhaustion. Over time, the victim may begin to lose their sense of self and their ability to make decisions independently. They may become trapped in a cycle of trying to please the manipulator, often sacrificing their own needs and desires in the process. This can lead to a diminished sense of personal power and autonomy, as the victim becomes more and more controlled by the manipulator's emotional demands. Recognizing emotional manipulation is the first step in breaking free from its influence. It requires self-awareness and the ability to separate your own emotions from those of the manipulator. The manipulator thrives on creating an emotional response in you, so learning to remain emotionally detached is crucial. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that teaches emotional resilience and the importance of focusing on what is within our control, can be an invaluable tool in identifying and responding to emotional manipulation. Stoics believe that our emotions are not inherently good or bad, but that we have the power to control how we respond to them. By practicing Stoic principles such as mindfulness, rational reflection, and self-control, we can develop the strength to recognize when we are being manipulated and maintain emotional composure in the face of such tactics. Another important Stoic principle is the idea of distinguishing between what we can and cannot control. Emotional manipulators often try to control how we feel, but the Stoic mindset teaches us to focus only on our own reactions, which are within our control. By refusing to give the manipulator the power to dictate our emotional state, we can free ourselves from the cycle of emotional manipulation. Practicing Stoicism helps us develop the inner strength to withstand emotional traps, making us less vulnerable to the manipulative tactics of others. Number 2. The Stoic view on external control. The Stoic philosophy offers profound insights into the nature of external control and its role in human life. At the heart of Stoicism is the distinction between things that are within our control and those that lie beyond it. According to the Stoics, we can only control our own thoughts, actions, and responses. Everything else, whether it be other people's behavior, external events, or circumstances, lies outside our domain of influence. This understanding forms the foundation of Stoic teachings, as it emphasizes the importance of focusing on internal control rather than attempting to control the uncontrollable. In a world full of unpredictability and chaos, Stoicism encourages individuals to cultivate resilience by recognizing the limits of their influence and letting go of the need to control external outcomes. The Stoic view on external control emphasizes acceptance and tranquility. Since external events are not inherently good or bad, it is our judgments about them that determine our emotional responses. A Stoic, therefore, aims to cultivate a mindset that remains undisturbed by external circumstances. This idea is encapsulated in the Stoic maxim: it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. By practicing this principle, Stoics can maintain peace of mind regardless of what happens around them, whether faced with a personal setback, a difficult relationship, or an unexpected challenge. The Stoic approach is to accept what is outside their control with equanimity and focus on managing their inner responses. This allows them to avoid unnecessary stress or frustration, as they are not emotionally invested in outcomes that are beyond their influence. One of the core practices of Stoicism is to reframe how we perceive external events. Stoics teach that while we cannot change what happens to us, we can always change how we respond to it. For example, if someone is rude or disrespectful, the Stoic view is not to be offended or angered, as those reactions are within the individual's control. Instead, a Stoic would see the rudeness as a reflection of the other person's character or situation, not as an assault on their own worth. This shift in perspective helps the Stoic preserve their peace of mind and maintain their focus on what truly matters, living virtuously and cultivating inner strength. The goal is not to eliminate all negative emotions, but to gain mastery over how we react to them, ensuring that our actions remain aligned with our values and principles, rather than being dictated by the unpredictable nature of external events. Another key aspect of the Stoic view on external control is the concept of dichotomy of control. This principle asserts that we must differentiate between what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, and what is not, external events, other people's behavior, and the past. The Stoic philosophy encourages individuals to focus their energy on what they can influence, such as their own decisions, virtues, and mindset, while accepting that they cannot control the actions of others or the course of events. This shift in focus allows for greater emotional resilience and personal freedom. When we stop expending energy on things outside our control, we free ourselves from the frustration that often arises from trying to control the uncontrollable. By letting go of the need to manipulate or force outcomes, we create space for greater peace, joy, and self-mastery. Furthermore, the Stoic view on external control emphasizes the importance of virtue as the ultimate good. Stoicism teaches that the only true good lies in the cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, qualities that are entirely within our control. External circumstances, whether they are positive or negative, are irrelevant to the Stoic sense of well-being, as they do not determine our happiness or moral worth. Instead, it is our ability to live virtuously and respond wisely to external events that defines the quality of our lives. A Stoic does not seek happiness in external achievements or material success, but in aligning their actions with their highest values. This makes Stoicism a powerful tool for achieving lasting contentment and peace, as it shifts the focus from external validation or circumstances to internal strength and virtue. In conclusion, the Stoic view on external control offers a liberating perspective on how to navigate the complexities of life. By understanding what is within our control and what is not, we can avoid the trap of trying to change things beyond our influence and instead focus on what truly matters, our own thoughts, actions, and values. Stoicism teaches us that by mastering our internal responses, we can maintain tranquility and resilience in the face of life's challenges. The practice of focusing on virtue, accepting external events, and reframing our perceptions allows us to live more fulfilling lives, free from the emotional turmoil that comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Number 3. Emotional traps and the desire for validation. Emotional traps and the desire for validation are intricately linked, as the pursuit of approval and recognition from others can often lead to patterns of emotional manipulation and self-sabotage. At its core, the desire for validation is a fundamental human need. We all want to feel seen, heard, and appreciated by others. However, when this desire becomes excessive or dependent on external sources, it opens the door to emotional traps that can undermine one's sense of self-worth and emotional stability. These emotional traps often take the form of seeking approval from others in ways that compromise personal boundaries or lead to feelings of inadequacy when validation is not received. For example, individuals may constantly seek praise or reassurance from others, adjust their behavior to fit others' expectations, or neglect their own needs to maintain the approval of those around them. While the occasional desire for affirmation is natural, when it becomes the primary basis for emotional fulfillment, it can result in a cycle of dependency that leaves one vulnerable to emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulators often exploit this need for validation, using it to their advantage by strategically offering or withholding approval to control the target's behavior. This manipulation may appear subtle at first, but can escalate over time, leading the victim to feel as if they are constantly working for approval. For instance, a manipulator might offer praise or affection only when the victim meets specific demands, or they might use silence or withdrawal as a form of punishment, forcing the victim to earn their approval. Over time, this creates a power imbalance, with the victim becoming more invested in gaining validation and less likely to assert their own needs or boundaries. This dynamic not only fosters dependence on external validation, but also erodes the individual's sense of self-worth, as their value becomes increasingly tied to the opinions and approval of others. The Stoic perspective offers a powerful antidote to these emotional traps. Stoicism teaches that our worth is not defined by external validation, but by our ability to live according to our values and virtues. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In this context, the Stoic approach emphasizes that emotional well-being comes from within, not from the approval or disapproval of others. By focusing on internal virtues, such as wisdom, courage, and self-control, individuals can develop a sense of self-worth that is independent of external circumstances. The Stoic view suggests that when we cease to rely on others for validation, we free ourselves from the emotional traps that come from seeking approval in unhealthy ways. Instead of constantly measuring our worth against others' opinions, we begin to value ourselves based on our own actions, choices, and integrity. Furthermore, the Stoic practice of mindfulness and self-reflection helps individuals become more aware of their emotional responses and motivations. By recognizing when the desire for validation is influencing decisions or emotional reactions, one can consciously choose to detach from the need for external approval. This self-awareness empowers individuals to set healthier boundaries and take ownership of their emotional state, rather than allowing others to dictate their sense of value. Instead of falling into the emotional trap of seeking validation, the Stoic approach encourages individuals to cultivate self-sufficiency and emotional resilience. This does not mean rejecting all forms of affirmation or support from others, but rather recognizing that true emotional strength comes from within, and that one's sense of worth should not be contingent on the fleeting opinions of others. In relationships, the desire for validation can also lead to unhealthy dynamics, where one person may feel the need to constantly seek reassurance, praise, or approval from the other. This dynamic can create a cycle of emotional manipulation, where the individual who is providing validation may do so to maintain control, while the one seeking validation becomes increasingly dependent on external affirmation. Over time, this can lead to feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and resentment on both sides. Healthy relationships, on the other hand, are built on mutual respect, trust, and emotional independence, where both individuals value and support each other without using validation as a tool for control or manipulation. Number 4. The role of silence and detachment. The role of silence and detachment in Stoic philosophy is integral to maintaining emotional equilibrium and navigating the complexities of human relationships. Both silence and detachment are powerful tools for cultivating inner peace and resilience, especially when dealing with emotional manipulation, external stressors, or challenging interpersonal dynamics. Silence in this context is not merely the absence of words, but a conscious choice to refrain from reacting impulsively to external stimuli. It is a practice of restraint, allowing one to respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. Detachment, similarly, is the art of separating oneself from the outcomes of situations, especially those beyond one's control. It is about not becoming overly entangled in the emotional or mental states of others, while maintaining a clear sense of personal boundaries and emotional independence. In the face of emotional manipulation or conflict, silence serves as a powerful form of self-protection. When others attempt to provoke an emotional response or engage in power struggles, choosing silence rather than reacting immediately allows for time to reflect on the situation and respond with greater wisdom. Silence gives space for clarity, enabling one to avoid saying or doing things that might escalate the situation or give power to the manipulative behavior of others. The Stoics, such as Marcus Aurelius, often emphasized the importance of controlling one's speech, recognizing that words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. By practicing silence, a person not only avoids unnecessary conflict, but also preserves their energy, focus, and emotional stability. Detachment, on the other hand, is the practice of not becoming emotionally invested in outcomes that are outside of one's control. It involves acknowledging that external events, other people's behavior, and even the opinions of others are beyond our direct influence and therefore should not dictate our emotional well-being. By detaching from these external sources of validation or distress, individuals are better able to maintain a sense of equanimity and avoid the emotional turbulence that often arises from trying to control or change what is uncontrollable. This does not mean disengaging from life or relationships, but rather maintaining an internal sense of balance regardless of external circumstances. Detachment allows one to act with greater wisdom and purpose, free from the emotional weight of outcomes that do not align with one's values or goals. The Stoic practice of silence and detachment is also deeply connected to the idea of focusing on what is within one's control. In any interaction or situation, the only thing truly within our control is our response, how we choose to act, think, and feel. External events or the actions of others cannot dictate our emotional state unless we allow them to. By remaining silent in the face of provocation and detached from the need to control others, we regain control over ourselves. This autonomy is key to the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature, which requires recognizing that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. Silence and detachment thus become tools for emotional sovereignty, helping individuals preserve their peace of mind even in the most challenging circumstances. Moreover, silence and detachment can strengthen relationships by fostering respect and understanding. When we practice silence, we give others the space to express themselves fully, which can lead to more thoughtful and meaningful communication. By not reacting impulsively, we can engage with others from a place of calm and clarity, which in turn encourages healthier, more balanced interactions. Detachment in relationships involves maintaining emotional boundaries and avoiding codependence. It allows individuals to love and care for others without becoming overly attached to the outcome of the relationship or the emotional state of the other person. This type of emotional independence is crucial for avoiding manipulation and ensuring that relationships are based on mutual respect rather than emotional neediness or control. In conclusion, the role of silence and detachment in Stoic philosophy is foundational to maintaining emotional resilience and cultivating wisdom in relationships. Silence empowers individuals to avoid reacting impulsively to external provocations, allowing for thoughtful responses that preserve emotional stability. Detachment enables individuals to separate themselves from the outcomes of situations, focusing instead on what is within their control, their own thoughts, actions, and emotional responses. Together, these practices create a sense of inner peace, self-mastery, and emotional independence, freeing individuals from the emotional traps of manipulation and external validation. By embracing silence and detachment, one can live with greater clarity, purpose, and tranquility, regardless of the challenges or emotions that arise from external circumstances. Number 5. Identifying emotional manipulation in relationships. Identifying emotional manipulation in relationships is crucial for maintaining healthy boundaries and emotional well-being. Emotional manipulation often operates in subtle ways, making it challenging to recognize until it has already caused significant damage. Manipulators typically exploit the vulnerabilities, insecurities, and desires of others to gain control over their emotions, actions, or decisions. One of the key tactics of emotional manipulation is gaslighting, where the manipulator distorts or denies reality to make the victim question their perception or memory of events. This leads to confusion, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of self-trust. In relationships, this tactic can make individuals feel as though they are constantly overreacting or imagining things, even when their instincts tell them otherwise. Recognizing gaslighting requires awareness of one's feelings and perceptions. If someone consistently makes you feel like your thoughts or emotions are invalid, it's an important red flag that emotional manipulation may be at play. Another common form of emotional manipulation is guilt tripping, where a manipulative person uses guilt to influence the behavior of others. This often involves making someone feel responsible for the manipulator's feelings or actions. For example, a manipulator might say things like, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me," or "Look at all I've done for you, and this is how you repay me." These statements play on feelings of obligation and make the victim feel as though their love or loyalty is being tested. Guilt tripping can be very effective because it taps into the natural desire to please others and maintain harmonious relationships. To identify guilt tripping, it's essential to recognize when someone is trying to make you feel responsible for their emotions or trying to pressure you into doing something you're uncomfortable with by leveraging your feelings of guilt. Another tactic of emotional manipulation is the use of silence or withdrawal, commonly referred to as the silent treatment. This can be a form of passive-aggressive behavior where the manipulator punishes the victim by withdrawing affection, attention, or communication, often without explanation. The manipulator may use this silence to create feelings of isolation and uncertainty, causing the victim to feel desperate to fix the situation by pleasing the manipulator or giving in to their demands. Recognizing this behavior involves noticing patterns of withdrawal that occur without a legitimate reason and understanding that it is being used as a control tactic rather than a healthy need for space. In a healthy relationship, both partners can communicate openly about their needs for space without resorting to emotional manipulation. Additionally, manipulative individuals may use flattery or excessive praise to gain favor or influence others. While compliments are a normal part of many relationships, a manipulator may use praise excessively or in a calculated manner to lower your defenses and make you feel indebted to them. They may shower you with attention when they want something, only to withdraw or criticize you once they have received what they wanted. Recognizing this pattern requires paying attention to when compliments feel insincere or are being used to achieve specific goals, such as controlling behavior or gaining favors. Genuine relationships are based on mutual respect and appreciation, without hidden agendas or manipulative tactics. Furthermore, emotional manipulators often use emotional blackmail to create fear, uncertainty, or obligation in their targets. This can involve threatening to harm themselves, end the relationship, or expose secrets if the victim does not comply with their wishes. Emotional blackmail plays on the victim's fears and sense of responsibility, creating a sense of urgency and pressure to make decisions based on emotion rather than reason. Identifying emotional blackmail requires being aware of patterns where fear or threats are used to control behavior. It's crucial to remember that emotional manipulators are not truly concerned with the well-being of the victim, but are instead seeking to control them for their own benefit. To identify emotional manipulation in relationships, it's essential to maintain self-awareness, trust your instincts, and be mindful of patterns of behavior that feel off or make you uncomfortable. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, open communication, and the ability to address issues without resorting to manipulation. When manipulation is present, it is often marked by a lack of respect for personal boundaries, the use of guilt or fear, and an imbalance of power. By recognizing these tactics and understanding their impact, individuals can protect themselves from emotional manipulation and take steps to establish healthier, more balanced relationships. In addition, the Stoic practice of detachment, mindfulness, and rational reflection can provide the emotional resilience needed to navigate these challenging dynamics and make decisions that align with one's values, rather than succumbing to the influence of manipulative behavior. Number 6. Emotional traps and the ego. Emotional traps and the ego are intricately connected, as the ego plays a significant role in shaping how we perceive and react to emotional situations. The ego, in psychological terms, is the part of the self that is concerned with identity, self-esteem, and the need for validation. It thrives on external recognition and approval, making it highly susceptible to emotional manipulation. Emotional traps, often designed to exploit vulnerabilities, can target the ego's desire for affirmation, control, or superiority. For instance, when someone uses flattery or praise to manipulate another person, they often appeal to the ego, making the individual feel special or important. In these situations, the ego becomes attached to the positive reinforcement, leading the person to act in ways that align with the manipulator's agenda. The ego seeks validation from external sources, which makes it vulnerable to being used as a tool of control. One of the primary emotional traps that manipulate the ego is the cycle of praise and criticism. Manipulators may alternate between complimenting and belittling the target, creating a roller coaster of emotional highs and lows. The ego becomes addicted to the praise, craving more attention or approval, while the criticism causes insecurity and self-doubt. This back-and-forth emotional manipulation can keep the victim in a constant state of uncertainty, never feeling fully secure or confident. The ego becomes trapped in this cycle, constantly seeking validation and approval to protect its fragile sense of self-worth. In such dynamics, the victim may overlook red flags or toxic behaviors, believing that they must please the manipulator to receive the positive reinforcement they crave. Another way emotional traps exploit the ego is through comparison. Manipulators often use subtle tactics to pit the victim against others, making them feel inferior or inadequate in comparison. For example, a manipulative partner may suggest that someone else is better, smarter, or more attractive, causing the individual to feel insecure and less worthy. This comparison activates the ego's need to prove itself and attain superiority. When trapped in this cycle of comparison, individuals may feel compelled to act in ways that align with the manipulator's desires, even if it goes against their true values or instincts. The ego becomes consumed with outperforming others or meeting unattainable standards, creating a sense of constant competition and dissatisfaction. The ego also fuels emotional traps through the need for control. Many emotional manipulators rely on the target's desire to maintain control over situations or relationships, using this need to trap the individual in a cycle of manipulation. The manipulator may create scenarios where the victim feels responsible for everything, from the emotional well-being of the manipulator to the success of the relationship. By positioning themselves as victims or by making the target feel guilty for not meeting their needs, manipulators reinforce the belief that the ego must constantly be in charge and ensure that everything runs smoothly. This gives the manipulator the power to dictate the terms of the relationship, making the victim believe that they must work harder to maintain control, even at the cost of their own emotional health. The Stoic approach to handling emotional traps and the ego is one of detachment and rational reflection. Stoicism teaches that the ego is not the true self, but rather a construct that can be influenced by external factors, such as praise, criticism, and comparison. To free oneself from emotional traps, Stoics advocate for the practice of focusing on what is within one's control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, while recognizing that external events or other people's opinions cannot define our sense of self-worth. By detaching from the ego's need for validation and refraining from getting caught in emotional highs and lows, individuals can maintain a sense of inner calm and strength. Stoicism encourages individuals to reflect on their actions and motivations, seeking to align their behavior with virtue and wisdom rather than the transient desires of the ego. Ultimately, emotional traps that prey on the ego are most effective when the individual is unaware of the subtle ways in which the ego seeks validation, control, and superiority. By becoming more mindful of these dynamics and practicing Stoic principles of detachment, rational reflection, and emotional resilience, individuals can break free from these traps. This process involves recognizing the ego's influence, understanding its role in emotional manipulation, and shifting focus from external validation to internal peace and self-awareness. By doing so, one can cultivate a healthier relationship with the self, free from the emotional traps that often lead to dissatisfaction and turmoil. Number 7. The Stoic practice of rational reflection. The Stoic practice of rational reflection is a powerful tool for navigating life's challenges, especially when faced with emotional traps and manipulation. Rational reflection involves consciously examining one's thoughts, beliefs, and reactions in order to make reasoned decisions rather than being swept away by emotional impulses. This Stoic practice helps individuals maintain clarity of mind and emotional stability, even when external circumstances are trying to provoke strong feelings. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," emphasizing that our internal reactions, not external events, determine our emotional state and well-being. Rational reflection allows individuals to detach from the automatic responses that arise from emotional triggers and make choices that align with their values, rather than being controlled by fleeting emotions or manipulative tactics. At the core of Stoic rational reflection is the understanding that we cannot control external events or other people's actions, but we can control how we respond to them. This understanding frees us from the emotional traps that often arise in relationships, particularly when manipulators try to provoke feelings of guilt, fear, or insecurity. Through rational reflection, Stoics are encouraged to evaluate situations objectively, identifying what is within their control and what is not. This process requires stepping back from a situation, removing oneself from the emotional charge, and assessing whether one's thoughts and reactions align with reason and virtue. By focusing on reason rather than reaction, individuals can avoid being manipulated by others and make decisions based on wisdom rather than emotional vulnerability. A key aspect of rational reflection is the practice of distinguishing between what is necessary and what is unnecessary. Stoics believe that many of our emotional reactions are based on desires or attachments to things that are ultimately out of our control, such as approval from others or the outcome of certain situations. Rational reflection encourages individuals to challenge these attachments and focus only on what is truly necessary for living a virtuous and fulfilling life. By reflecting on what truly matters, we can let go of the ego-driven impulses that often lead to emotional traps, such as the desire for validation, control, or superiority. In this way, rational reflection helps individuals cultivate a sense of inner peace and resilience, regardless of the manipulative tactics others may use. Rational reflection also enables individuals to recognize when they are falling into emotional traps or reacting in ways that are not in alignment with their values. For example, when confronted with a manipulative person who uses guilt-tripping or gaslighting, Stoics practice rational reflection to identify these tactics and evaluate their responses. Instead of reacting impulsively, they pause and ask themselves whether their response is based on reason or driven by the need to please others or protect their ego. By doing so, they create space between the emotional stimulus and their response, allowing them to choose a more measured and intentional course of action. This self-awareness prevents the ego from taking over and allows individuals to maintain control over their emotions and reactions. Furthermore, rational reflection is a tool for self-improvement and personal growth. By regularly reflecting on one's actions, thoughts, and experiences, Stoics are able to identify areas of weakness and areas for growth. This practice of introspection allows individuals to learn from their mistakes and adjust their behavior accordingly. It also fosters a mindset of continuous improvement, where the goal is not to avoid challenges or uncomfortable emotions, but to respond to them with wisdom and virtue. In relationships, this means being able to recognize when emotional manipulation is occurring, learning from the experience, and using that knowledge to strengthen future interactions. The Stoic practice of rational reflection is not a one-time exercise, but a lifelong commitment to cultivating wisdom and emotional resilience. It requires constant self-awareness and the willingness to examine one's beliefs and reactions, even when it is uncomfortable or difficult. By making rational reflection a regular part of daily life, individuals can avoid falling prey to emotional traps, strengthen their ability to navigate complex relationships, and develop a deeper sense of peace and self-mastery. Ultimately, rational reflection enables individuals to live a life guided by reason and virtue, where external circumstances or emotional manipulation no longer have the power to dictate their emotional state or decisions. Number 8. Maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators. Maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators is crucial for protecting one's mental and emotional well-being. Emotional manipulators often use subtle tactics to blur or violate personal boundaries, making it challenging to maintain a sense of self and control. Boundaries serve as a form of self-respect, helping individuals define what is acceptable in their relationships and what is not. When dealing with emotional manipulators, boundaries act as a shield against manipulation, allowing individuals to protect their time, energy, and emotions from being exploited. The Stoic approach to maintaining boundaries emphasizes the importance of self-awareness, self-discipline, and a strong sense of personal values. Stoics recognize that while they cannot control the actions of others, they have the power to control how they respond and set limits. The first step in maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators is recognizing the manipulation itself. Emotional manipulators may use guilt, fear, or confusion to pressure others into compliance or emotional vulnerability. They often attempt to create a sense of obligation, making the victim feel responsible for the manipulator's emotions or actions. In these situations, it's essential to maintain clarity of mind through the practice of rational reflection, a key Stoic principle. By stepping back and objectively assessing the situation, individuals can identify when their boundaries are being pushed or crossed. Once the manipulation is recognized, the next step is to assert those boundaries firmly and confidently. This can involve saying no without feeling guilty, voicing concerns without fear of retaliation, or setting limits on how much emotional energy is given to the manipulator. Stoics emphasize the importance of inner strength and emotional resilience in the face of manipulation. Emotional manipulators often rely on the victim's emotional reactions, whether guilt, anger, or sadness, to manipulate their behavior. A key Stoic practice is detaching from these emotional responses and reframing situations from a place of reason and virtue. This allows individuals to maintain composure and stick to their boundaries, even when faced with emotional pressure. Instead of reacting impulsively or giving in to the manipulator's demands, Stoics focus on what is within their control, their actions, thoughts, and emotions. By maintaining a sense of detachment and emotional resilience, individuals are less likely to be swayed by manipulative tactics and more likely to uphold their boundaries. Effective communication is also essential when maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators. While the Stoic approach encourages detachment, it does not suggest avoidance or passivity. Instead, it promotes clear, direct communication that is rooted in respect for oneself and the other person. When setting boundaries, it's important to express them assertively but calmly, without becoming defensive or overly emotional. This helps prevent the manipulator from gaining the upper hand by invoking guilt or other emotional triggers. By maintaining composure and asserting boundaries in a rational, non-confrontational manner, individuals can avoid escalating the situation and ensure their boundaries are respected. An essential aspect of maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators is self-care. Protecting one's emotional and mental health is vital, especially when dealing with individuals who constantly test or violate boundaries. Stoicism teaches that individuals should prioritize their own well-being and peace of mind over external approval or the desire to please others. This may involve distancing oneself from toxic relationships, saying no to requests that are unreasonable or draining, and ensuring that personal needs are met. Self-care practices such as reflection, meditation, or engaging in activities that promote well-being can help individuals maintain their sense of balance and resilience. By prioritizing self-care, individuals are better equipped to maintain healthy boundaries and avoid being manipulated. Finally, maintaining boundaries with emotional manipulators requires ongoing vigilance. Emotional manipulators are skilled at exploiting weaknesses and finding ways to push boundaries over time. Regularly reassessing one's boundaries and the dynamics of relationships is essential to ensure that they remain intact. Stoics believe that wisdom and self-awareness are lifelong practices, and maintaining boundaries is no exception. By regularly reflecting on relationships and assessing whether boundaries are being respected, individuals can prevent manipulation from taking hold and make adjustments as necessary. Stoic principles, such as living in accordance with virtue, focusing on what is within one's control, and practicing emotional resilience, provide a strong foundation for maintaining healthy boundaries and protecting oneself from emotional manipulation. Number 9. Emotional resilience, turning manipulation into strength. Emotional resilience is the ability to adapt positively to adversity, stress, and challenging emotional situations, and it plays a crucial role in turning manipulation into an opportunity for personal growth and empowerment. When faced with emotional manipulation, individuals often experience feelings of confusion, self-doubt, and frustration, as manipulators use tactics like guilt, fear, and shame to bend others to their will. However, cultivating emotional resilience allows a person to respond to these manipulative behaviors not with vulnerability or submission, but with strength, clarity, and self-assurance. By strengthening emotional resilience, we can not only protect ourselves from the negative effects of manipulation, but also learn to use these experiences as opportunities to develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and our emotional responses. Rather than allowing manipulation to weaken us, emotional resilience enables us to transform these challenges into moments of empowerment. At the heart of emotional resilience is the ability to regulate one's emotional responses. Emotional manipulators often prey on individuals who are easily triggered or reactive, as they can exploit these emotional vulnerabilities to control or influence behavior. By developing emotional resilience, we can better manage our reactions to manipulation, preventing the manipulator from gaining the emotional leverage they seek. This regulation is not about suppressing emotions, but rather about recognizing and processing them in a healthy way. For example, when a manipulative person attempts to guilt-trip us, we may initially feel an emotional reaction, but rather than succumbing to feelings of guilt or obligation, emotional resilience allows us to pause, reflect, and choose a more rational response. This practice of emotional awareness and regulation helps us prevent impulsive reactions and instead respond in a way that is aligned with our values, ensuring that we do not compromise our integrity or self-worth. Another important aspect of emotional resilience is the development of self-awareness. Emotional manipulators often use tactics that blur the lines between reality and perception, such as gaslighting, to distort the truth and make the victim question their own thoughts and feelings. When we are emotionally resilient, we are able to maintain a strong sense of self and trust our own perception of events. Self-awareness allows us to identify when we are being manipulated and to distinguish between our true feelings and the distorted reality the manipulator is trying to create. This awareness gives us the power to step back and reflect on the situation objectively, helping us regain control over our emotions and reactions. With emotional resilience, we learn to listen to our inner voice and trust our instincts, recognizing that our emotions and perceptions are valid, even if others try to invalidate them. In addition to self-awareness, emotional resilience involves building emotional boundaries. Manipulators often try to blur boundaries, creating confusion or encouraging dependence, so that the person becomes more susceptible to manipulation. Resilience allows us to recognize when our boundaries are being violated and to take proactive steps to protect our emotional space. By setting clear limits, we ensure that we do not give in to emotional demands or manipulation that compromises our well-being. For instance, if a manipulative person attempts to push us into agreeing to something we are uncomfortable with, emotional resilience empowers us to assertively say no and stand firm in our decisions. This reinforces the idea that our emotional well-being is a priority and that we will not allow anyone to undermine our sense of self-worth. Setting these boundaries strengthens our emotional resilience, as it not only protects us, but also fosters a sense of control and autonomy. Developing emotional resilience also involves cultivating a mindset of perspective and reframing. Life's challenges, including emotional manipulation, can often feel overwhelming in the moment. However, resilient individuals are able to step back from the emotional heat of the situation and reframe their thoughts. Instead of viewing manipulation as a personal attack or a reflection of their own inadequacy, they are able to see it as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. By reframing the situation, we can shift our perspective from feeling victimized to feeling empowered. We can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this situation? How can this challenge help me grow stronger emotionally? This shift in mindset helps us find meaning in difficult experiences and allows us to use them as stepping stones toward greater emotional strength. Resilience is about understanding that while we may not be able to control others' actions, we can always control how we perceive and respond to them, transforming adversity into an opportunity for personal development. Resilience also fosters the ability to detach from the manipulator's emotional tactics. Emotional manipulators often try to engage us in their emotional games, whether by invoking guilt, anger, or fear to get their way. By developing emotional resilience, we learn not to be drawn into their manipulative behaviors. Instead of reacting impulsively or emotionally to their tactics, we can remain detached, observing their actions without allowing them to trigger our emotions. This detachment is not about becoming indifferent or apathetic, but about maintaining an objective awareness of the manipulator's behavior without being emotionally swept away by it. When we detach emotionally, we protect our peace and maintain control over our reactions, which is a key element of emotional resilience. Furthermore, emotional resilience helps us learn from past manipulative experiences, allowing us to make better decisions in the future. The ability to reflect on past situations and recognize patterns of manipulation enables us to avoid falling into the same traps again. It also reinforces our self-worth as we become more attuned to the tactics manipulators use and learn how to avoid or neutralize them. Each experience of manipulation becomes a lesson, helping us become stronger, wiser, and more adept at recognizing toxic behaviors. As we continue to build emotional resilience, we develop the tools necessary to protect ourselves from future manipulation and to navigate relationships with greater confidence and clarity. Lastly, emotional resilience is about embracing the Stoic principle of focusing on what is within our control. We cannot control the actions of emotional manipulators, but we can control our responses to them. By maintaining a strong sense of self, setting boundaries, regulating our emotions, and reframing our experiences, we empower ourselves to navigate the challenges of manipulation with composure and grace. Emotional resilience allows us to thrive despite the attempts of others to undermine our peace or sense of self-worth. It helps us turn manipulation into strength, not only by preventing its negative effects, but by using these experiences as opportunities to cultivate deeper emotional intelligence, strength, and clarity. Number 10. The importance of wisdom in relationships. Wisdom plays a pivotal role in shaping the dynamics of relationships, guiding individuals to make decisions that promote growth, harmony, and mutual respect. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, emotions often run high, and the ability to apply wisdom in these moments can be the difference between conflict and understanding. Wisdom, defined as the ability to apply knowledge and experience in a balanced and thoughtful way, helps us navigate the complexities of human interaction by encouraging patience, empathy, and thoughtful decision-making. It is the foundation for resolving misunderstandings, fostering trust, and maintaining emotional stability within relationships. Without wisdom, relationships can become fragile and reactive, driven more by impulses and unchecked emotions than by mutual understanding and respect. One of the most important aspects of wisdom in relationships is the ability to see beyond one's own perspective. Often, people become entrenched in their own emotions and viewpoints, losing sight of the broader picture. Wisdom allows individuals to step back and consider the feelings, experiences, and motivations of others. This perspective-taking is essential for fostering empathy and reducing misunderstandings. In situations where conflict arises, wisdom enables us to respond not out of defensiveness or pride, but from a place of understanding and openness. By acknowledging the other person's viewpoint, we are more likely to find common ground and resolve differences in a constructive manner. This openness to different perspectives not only strengthens the bond between individuals, but also deepens mutual respect, creating a foundation for lasting and meaningful relationships. Wisdom also helps in recognizing the long-term consequences of our actions, which is essential for maintaining stability in relationships. In the heat of the moment, it is easy to act impulsively, making decisions that might feel right in the short term, but cause harm or resentment later. Wisdom encourages individuals to think carefully before acting, weighing the potential outcomes of their choices. For example, in moments of anger or frustration, a wise person might choose to pause and reflect rather than lash out, understanding that words spoken in haste can have lasting effects. This ability to resist impulsive reactions and consider the long-term impact of one's behavior helps to prevent unnecessary conflict and promote healthier interactions. In the context of romantic relationships, for instance, wisdom allows partners to handle disagreements with grace, understanding that the health of the relationship as a whole is more important than winning an argument. It fosters patience, encouraging individuals to address issues in a way that supports the relationship's long-term well-being. Moreover, wisdom teaches us to recognize and respect the boundaries and autonomy of others. In any relationship, there is a delicate balance between closeness and independence. Too much dependency or possessiveness can create tension, while too much distance can lead to isolation. Wisdom enables individuals to navigate this balance with grace, knowing when to give space and when to offer support. In a romantic relationship, for example, wisdom helps partners recognize that each person is an individual with their own needs, desires, and ambitions. Rather than attempting to control or change the other person, wisdom encourages respect for their autonomy, fostering an environment where both individuals can grow and thrive independently while still nurturing the relationship. Similarly, in familial relationships, wisdom allows us to respect boundaries while still offering care and support when needed, understanding that each person is entitled to their own space and choices. Another key aspect of wisdom in relationships is emotional regulation. Relationships can stir a wide range of emotions, and the ability to manage these emotions thoughtfully is critical for maintaining healthy connections. Wisdom helps us recognize when our emotions are clouding our judgment, allowing us to pause, reflect, and respond rather than react. For example, if we feel hurt or rejected, wisdom enables us to express our feelings in a calm and constructive way rather than letting resentment fester or acting out in anger. It encourages us to take a step back and assess the situation before making decisions that could have emotional repercussions. This emotional maturity not only helps avoid unnecessary conflict, but also promotes deeper emotional intimacy as partners or friends feel safe expressing themselves without fear of overreaction or emotional volatility. The role of wisdom in relationships extends beyond managing emotions to include the cultivation of trust. Trust is the bedrock of any meaningful relationship, and wisdom plays a vital role in building and maintaining this trust. Through consistent, thoughtful actions, wise individuals demonstrate their reliability and integrity, which fosters a sense of security and mutual respect. Wisdom teaches us to honor our commitments, to communicate openly and honestly, and to show up for others when they need us. It also helps us recognize when trust has been broken, giving us the insight to approach healing and forgiveness in a way that supports the restoration of the relationship. Whether in the form of offering a sincere apology, seeking understanding, or taking responsibility for our actions, wisdom enables us to rebuild trust and move forward in a positive direction. In addition to trust, wisdom is crucial for navigating the inevitable challenges that arise in relationships. Life is unpredictable and circumstances can change, sometimes creating stress and strain on relationships. However, wisdom helps individuals respond to challenges with resilience and adaptability. Rather than becoming overwhelmed by adversity, wise individuals approach challenges with a calm and measured attitude, seeking solutions rather than dwelling on problems. For example, in a romantic relationship, if a partner faces a personal or professional setback, wisdom allows the other partner to offer support without judgment, understanding that tough times are part of life. This ability to handle challenges together with mutual support and understanding strengthens relationships and makes them more resilient in the face of future difficulties. Finally, wisdom encourages the continual growth and evolution of relationships. Relationships are dynamic, and over time, people grow, change, and evolve. Wisdom helps individuals embrace this change and adapt to the evolving needs of the relationship. It encourages communication, flexibility, and a willingness to learn and grow together. Rather than clinging to the past or resisting change, wisdom allows partners to support each other's growth and development, knowing that this evolution is an integral part of building a lasting, fulfilling relationship.